Year 2 of the Dan Hurley era at UConn is upon us, and it gets underway tonight. Year 1 saw some great highs.
No, Gilbert, look away. Oh, my goodness. UConn wins in a great win for the Huskies.
But at the end of the season, the Huskies had their 3rd straight losing record. In previous stops, Year 2 has seen rapid improvement from Coach Hurley's teams, and he expects that to continue.
We're really determined to compete for an opportunity to play in March. I mean, that's what we're striving for.
We are getting you ready for the upcoming season. It's the UConn Men's Basketball Preview Show, presented by Trantolo and Trantolo, and it starts right now. At Gamble Pavilion, where the UConn Huskies will open up the 2019-2020 basketball season as they host Sacred Heart at the top of the hour, and we'll get you ready for all the action right here on SNY. Welcome to the UConn Men's Basketball Season Preview Show, presented by Trantolo and Trantolo. I'm Eamon McEnany, happy to be joined by the former head coach of the Maine Black Bears, Ted Woodward. Ted, welcome aboard here at SNY.
Great to be here. Great time of the season.
Absolutely. Ready to get going. It's Year 2, of course, of the Dan Hurley era, and the Husky faithful hopes that means a return to the NCAA tournament for the first time since 2017. Now, while Jalen Adams has graduated, UConn returns some key pieces. So, Ted, what will be the biggest change for the Huskies this season?
Well, really, I think it's going to be 3 things. This has been an incredible offseason for UConn. They have really worked extremely hard in their strength and their conditioning, a lot with their skill work, a lot with their mentality as well. Coach Hurley has also added some key pieces to that program. They've increased their talent, their athleticism with a great recruiting class. And really, I think experience is key as well. You have experience really in 2 areas. A lot of players now have played a lot. They got 4 returning starters, Christian Vital, Arthur Gilbert, certainly Josh Carlton, and Tyler Polley. So you have an experienced group coming back. But the other thing they all have now is a year under their belt with Coach Hurley. They know what he wants to expect. They know how he expects them to play. So those expectations, I think they're going to be much more comfortable with going in to start this season.
Yeah, that intensity does take a little while to get comfortable and embrace and get comfortable with. Now, as UConn gets ready to tip off the new season, head coach Dan Hurley is back on the bench just 2 months after going surgery to alleviate a spinal condition that could have left him paralyzed. In an exclusive sit-down interview, Coach Hurley spoke about various topics, but began with a health update.
I feel great. It feels great to get back, and sometimes like a little bit of adversity isn't a bad thing for you too. Allowed me to kind of take a little bit of a step back. Probably drove my wife, Andrea, crazy, but for me, I think it kind of reinvigorated me a little bit and kind of gave me a sense of how much I missed it, even though I was just out of here just a couple days. I'm a little bit of an analytics guy, probably more go by my gut, but and feel as a coach. But I would say, we were better across the board in terms of our numbers, defensive efficiency, offensive efficiency. We played faster. This year's exciting. We feel like we've established the culture of how hard we're going to work. We've got a number of players coming back to the team that got a lot of experience last year. And then we're returning, or we're bringing in a real infusion of athletic talent and skilled players that will be able to supplement an older group that, hopefully is, really determined to have a winning season and to compete for an opportunity to play in March. I mean, that's what we're striving for. This is my 10th year as a college head coach. So for me, I think I've only had one time in my career where we didn't win more games than the year before. I think that's only happened to me one time, I think, when we lost our best player to an ACL injury 7 minutes into the opener. So I'm going to hang my head on that I know how to kind of just build a program, develop players, and just bring a team, bring players along from year to year. So, yeah, I mean, obviously you want to have a winning season because we haven't had one of those at a place like this. That's like, it blows your mind, but that's the reality of the position we're in. But again, if the older players play at a high level and some sophomores and juniors emerge, and then if the freshmen are as good as we expect them to be, will have a chance to really compete for things this year. When you coach at a place like UConn, the attention you get, local media, national media, social media, it's the real, it's the real deal. This is, it's like the head of being the head coach of professional sports teams in terms of the fan interest and the expectations. For me, I've been through this process. I've been through this process before. This is my third year too at the college level. Obviously, the scrutiny is greater, but the process is the same. Just my ability to turn off the noise and stick to the day-to-day grind in recruiting, in player development, in building a team is just something that I'm steadfast in and just laser focused on. And just as a Hurley, I've had high expectations for me my whole life, so I kind of wear it like shirt or pants or sneakers.
Well, as Coach Hurley said, he's been through the process before. This is his third year, too. So, Ted, when you take a look at his track record at both Wagner and Rhode Island, what's the biggest difference between year 2 and year 1?
Really, it's teams that start with defense. They build a foundation of their defense. He has some guards that are going to do a great job guarding the basketball. He has some rim protectors in the back. He also brought in some players that are very versatile, so he can do a few different things on the defensive end. And then when they turn into offense, he really wants his guys he's encouraged them to make plays. They lost a couple of close games last year. I would expect this year you'll see those games go UConn's way. It's a very exciting offensive basketball team. There are 5 players out there that you have to guard all the time, in the post and on the perimeter. So I think that really bodes well for a great second year here for Coach Hurley. All
right, now let's head out to Stores. We're going to bring in tonight's sideline reporter, Chris Williamson. And now that we know how Coach Hurley's teams improve in their second year, Chris, what are the expectations within the program for this season?
Yeah, Eamon, I mean, not a lot of people are expecting the Huskies to do well in this conference, but they want to win the AAC championship in their last year. How much so? They have a picture of the AAC trophy everywhere you can name it. The locker room, the weight room, the cafeteria. Christian Vitale, the senior guard, even joked in the bathroom. Coach Hurley wants to make sure this team finishes off the AAC conference with a bang. They want to make sure they send a statement to the rest of the conference, and they understand, Eamon, that the other opponents that are in their conference, there's not going to be a lot of love lost. So they have that target on their back, and they just want to make sure they bring back that prominence of UConn Husky basketball.
Now, one player who we will not see tonight is top 100 recruit guard James Bouknight. Chris, what's the latest with the freshman?
Well, Eamon, James Bouknight will be suspended for 3 games. Coach Hurley made that decision on Thursday. He said he felt like he didn't want to do a 1 or 2 game suspension because that would be too short, but doing 3 games would send a message. Right now, he said, the reputation on Bouknight is about his embarrassment and what he's done to the program, but he hopes that in the future, his reputation will be about championship and pedigree culture. So hopefully that is something we'll see, and this young man can learn from his mistake and that off-the-court incident as it comes forward.
All right, Chris, thanks a lot for the information. Look forward to you on the call here tonight between Connecticut and Sacred Heart. We have just teed off, and UConn's title teams have been built on great guard play. And we'll break down the backcourt duo of Vitale and Gilbert when the UConn men's basketball preview show continues only on SNY.
The UConn Season Preview Show is brought to you by Trentolo & Trentolo, Connecticut's personal injury law firm.
Christian Vitale protecting and then getting it to gently roll over the iron and in. Gilbert pulling up from way downtown, attacking off the window. Vitale from way downtown. Nothing but nylon for Christian Vitale.
Out Tariq Gilbert buries it from way downtown.
Good rotation. Gilbert from the left corner. Christian Vitale, the floater, rattles around and drops in. Christian Vitale.
UConn has certainly had its share of dynamic backcourts over the years, and this team is no different. Christian Vitale and Tariq Gilbert will run the show for the Huskies, and they are coming off a season when they combined to average nearly 27 points a game. Here's Coach Hurley on the importance of the two of them returning this year.
It's their team. They're seniors. You know, they're both good players. They're proven players, vets. And, you know, their leadership has been profound with this group since the summer. Tariq has been through a lot in his career, you know, but he's finally had the longest period of time since he's been in college where he's been healthy. He's ready to have a big year. You know, and I think, you know, Christian's a super competitive guy, you know, a guy that, you know, wants to leave this program coming off a big year because none of these guys have experienced how much fun college basketball can be when you have a good team.
All right, Ted, let's pick up where Coach Hurley left off with the Queens native Christian Vitale coming back for his senior year. What does he bring to the table for this year's club?
Well, I think one thing that Christian brings, first and foremost, is toughness. He is a guy who is going to be out there playing defense. He's going to guard the other team's best perimeter player. He is going to make sure that he gets on the floor for a lot of loose balls, and he wants to use that leadership with this team to help take them to the postseason this year. No question about it. He's a tough guy, and Coach Hurley loves that about him. The other thing he provides is a lot of production. You know, if you look at Christian last year, he shot over 40% from the three-point line, took a lot of three-pointers, shot over 80% from the free throw line. He gets to the free throw line. He leads the team in steals. But one of the things I like the most about is he leads in defensive rebounds. He's a guard that goes in there, mixes it up, is able to get the ball off the glass, and therefore ignite the fast break.
Certainly does a little bit of everything. And as we heard Coach Hurley say, Tariq Gilbert finally having a healthy offseason for a guy who was an All-American coming into UConn. Where can he improve this season to help the Huskies get back to the NCAA tournament?
Tariq is certainly a heralded recruit coming into UConn. And, you know, he just has had some bad luck. He had some injuries for a couple of years, so he really did not have a chance to get through a lot of game time this two seasons before this past one. But all of a sudden now he gets into a bunch of games last year. He gets ready to start. People can see the level of talent that he has. He is a playmaker. He's able to use ball screens and know his personnel off those ball screens. And really now, with a healthy offseason, he's really worked on his body. He's really worked on his skill. You're going to see his productivity level continue to increase throughout this year.
All right, we heard Coach Hurley say this is their team. How well do they complement each other, both as leaders and on the court with the ball?
Well, I think they complement each other very well. I think, you know, when you look at the beginning of the defensive possessions, you have Tariq on the ball. I mean, he really makes opposing point guards work hard to bring the basketball up. Vitale is usually someone who's going to be guarding the first pass or the best perimeter defender. So, you know, they play very well off each other. They're very complementary along with the front court. So they both want to be great leaders. They both are tremendous people. And, you know, I think you'll see their leadership throughout the course of this year.
Always helps to have great guard plays. We are taking you right up to the tip between UConn and Sacred Heart. There's a look at Tariq Gilbert getting ready to start the season against the Pioneers. When we return, we'll take a look at the bigs for Coach Hurley. And can Josh Carlton make another leap? We'll have that and more right after this. Dan Hurley expects a cook to deliver splash plays with putback dunks and block shots. And there is the freshman getting ready to make his long-awaited debut. Now, for more on tonight's game, let's bring in the men who'll call the action, Gary Apple and Vin Parisi.
Thanks so much, and it is year 2 of the Dan Hurley era here at Connecticut. And Vin Parisi, who's that guy? Who's that veteran leader that really needs to step forward for UConn to take a major leap this year?
I feel it's Tariq Gilbert, and he's got to lead Dan Hurley's club in so many ways. Obviously, when the basketball's in his hands and being an aggressive point guard, making his teammates better, but upping that scoring column. He comes in as a preseason second-teamer, all conference-wise, but he only averaged 12 points a game last year. Dan Hurley needs more offense, more leadership. He's finally healthy, into a groove in his career. Now's the time.
Well, he's healthy, and he had a chance to work out this summer, so you can see noticeably bigger, and hopes that strength will help him, especially getting to the basket and then finishing. What about the big man, Josh Carlton? Now, he has put on some weight himself. He needs to be a dominant player down in the low block. Is he that guy for you who can be a big who can provide you 10 points and 10 rebounds a game?
Well, he can be, and Dan Hurley and the coaching staff feel he can be as well. And they rave about the offseason that Josh Carlton's had. And it's not just what he could do on the interior down low, it's the intangibles that he could bring. But this is a new challenge. Dan Hurley's going to play a lot of stretch 4 offense, 4 out, 1 in. Carlton's got to be that dominant force on the inside.
Well, excitement in the building. It's opening night of the college basketball season here in Storrs, Connecticut. Vin and I will see you in just a little bit. Back to Eamon and Ted back in the studio.
All right, guys, thanks a lot. And, you know, we always focus on the backcourt when discussing UConn's success, but the front court is the key to this season. We heard the guys talk about Josh Carlton. He won a share of the conference's most improved player last season. What impresses you the most about him? Well,
This time last year, it was almost 5-man by committee. There were a lot of different players that were going through that position, and Josh Carlton, his trajectory last year was tremendous. He just went and grabbed that position and ended up having a tremendous year. He's very, very strong down on the block, shoots over 60%. He kind of breaks droughts when the UConn's having a little bit of trouble scoring. You're always able to get it in, and the defense really has to work hard to get around him. Even when he doesn't finish plays, he's getting himself to the free throw line. And one thing I think he also really improved on last year was becoming a tremendous passer inside out and finding those guards for good inside out looks three-point shots.
What's more important if you're Dan Hurley when you're looking at Josh Carlton? The contributions on the offensive end or the defensive end?
Well, I think both. I think he's a guy that certainly on the offensive end needs to be a force down that low post and gives you some easy baskets. But defensively, he needs to continue to move his feet. You know, they're going to put a lot of pressure on the perimeter with the guards. He's a guy in the back that can kind of help take those shots away at the rim, block some shots, get some defensive rebounds, and ignite their fast break.
You'd never cut it on Loudmouth by going both. We need an answer, offense or defense. Just kidding. All right, a cook joined the program in January, practiced with the team as a walk-on down the stretch. He finally gets to play in a college game tonight, expected to be in the starting lineup. What does he bring to the table for you?
Well, as you heard Vin talk about, there's a lot of excitement about the offseason and the strength and conditioning and all the different things that happen there at UConn. A Cook is certainly a guy who has really experienced that. He looks a lot bigger even than he did last spring, you know, coming into the UConn program. He's a very versatile talent, and, you know, he's really accepted coaching extremely well. He can do a lot of things on the defensive end, a very long wingspan, can guard the perimeter, can guard on the inside, can block some shots, can get on the glass. And on offense, he's a very versatile player as well. He's got a beautiful three-point shooting stroke. You can see how he can put the ball on the ground. And you know what? He's going to continue to get better, especially through this non-conference portion of the season. So by the time they turn the calendar into January, he's really going to be a force for them.
There are some knowns about this team, as we discussed, 4 returning starters. What's the X factor? Who is the X factor? Who do you think is the guy that can really take a quantum leap and help this team get into the postseason?
Well, I think a Cook is going to be probably that guy just because he is a little bit different. You're looking at a starting line of 6'8", 6'9", 6'11", really. That's a big starting line with a lot of versatility. So I think he's the guy that kind of changes the look of the lineup with them right now, and certainly with those 4 experienced starters, you know, he's going to certainly provide a big push for them.
And we are getting closer and closer to his Connecticut debut as the Huskies open up against Sacred Heart. We still have more to do here on this show. The University of Houston won the AAC regular season title and advanced to the Sweet 16, while Cincinnati won the conference's tournament title. How does UConn match up against the top teams in the American Athletic Conference? We'll examine that next.
The UConn Season Preview Show is brought to you by Trentolo and Trentolo, Connecticut's personal injury law firm.
Welcome back. We are just a few minutes away from UConn opening up their season against Sacred Heart, and there's Josh Carlton preparing to make his 51st career start for the Huskies. He led UConn last year with 6.2 rebounds a game. The American Athletic Conference's preseason coaches poll is presented by Trentolo and Trentolo. Houston and Memphis tied for first, but there is breaking news tonight regarding Penny Hardaway's Tigers. Touted freshman James Wiseman, who some think might be the #1 overall pick in the next NBA draft, has been ruled ineligible by the NCAA, but now there is a court order that will allow him to play this evening. This is definitely a story with more twists and turns coming throughout the college basketball season. And Ted, we saw Connecticut there picked to finish 6th in the league this season. You think that's an accurate place for the Huskies to go in the preseason?
Well, I think there's a lot of really good teams in the American Conference, certainly with a lot of starters returning and players returning. Memphis had a heralded recruiting class. Certainly Coach Sampson did a great job with Houston last year. Cincinnati returning, you know, Cumberland Player of the Year preseason, or unanimous first-team all-conference selection. But UConn had 2 preseason players picked second team in Vital and Gilbert. So, you know, they have 4 starters returning, and they're going to continue to get better. This UConn team is hungry. They want to get out here. They are paying attention, and Coach Ron sure will continue to coach them to pay attention to a lot of different details. They want to take that next step. This is an exciting team that will continue to get better throughout the course of the year. They do have 2 other freshmen, Jalen Gaffney and James Bouknight, that are going to really make an impact as the months of November, December moves on. So I'm really excited about this UConn team and where they could go. especially as they enter the conference portion of play in January.
And they're going to need to be hungry because, as Chris mentioned, it's certainly going to be interesting when they go on the road against their conference opponents this year. Here's a look at how the Huskies will open up the 2019-2020 campaign. After tonight, they host St. Joe's and new head coach Billy Lang on Wednesday. Next Sunday, the 6th-ranked Gators come north, and then it's off to South Carolina for the Charleston Classic. We are getting closer and closer to the tip-off of UConn's season. When we return, we'll have more on tonight's matchup between the Huskies and the Pioneers.
Okay.
Christian Vitale is the engine that makes the Huskies go, and he is ready to start his senior year in Stores after deciding to return for one final year. It's the Huskies against the Pioneers coming up here on SNY. And here is Dan Hurley's starting five for the season opener. 4 familiar names: Vitale, Gilbert, Carlton, and Polly, all returning from last year and being joined by the rookie, Cook. Coming up right up on tip-off, Ted, so what specifically are you looking for from the Huskies tonight?
Well, Coach Hurley is all about playing harder than the opponent. He wants his guys to play incredibly hard. He wants them to play great defense. I expect to see a UConn team come out with a lot of energy. I expect him to play great defense throughout the evening, really hit the glass hard. He wants them flying around. I mean, there was to be a lot of energy in that building. They feed off the UConn fans at home all the time. So I think you'll have a lot of excitement there tonight. And on the offensive end, I think you're going to look to see guys make plays. I think you'll see Altair Gilbert make some plays, and all the different guys have been working hard in the offseason. They're looking forward to this opportunity this evening.
All right, quickly, they scrimmaged Harvard. They had the exhibition game. What's the bread and butter right now? What do you know UConn can count on?
I know they can count on their defense, and I know that their next step is to count on their rebounding. They definitely can count on their defense. They did that in both the exhibition and their scrimmages, and, you know, they really feel like this is an area where they can, you know, build a foundation for their season moving forward.
All right, that'll do it for us. We'll be back at the half, but now let's send it out to Gamble Pavilion. It's the Huskies against the Pioneers. Vin Parise and Gary Apple on the call. UConn hosting Sacred Heart. We send it out to Stores. Gary Apple, take it away.